ton of Eastern Washington film. I think it starts for them with their quarterback. Kid's almost got 2,200 yards passing already. He's just a really impressive kid. You can just see, I mean, if you tilt the safeties at all, he knows where the pressure's coming from. He knows exactly where to go with the football. And, maybe early in the year, looking for some guys to replace some of the really talented young men that they lost to the NFL last year. But they have a ton of capable players, and they have a lot of really talented skill players on that roster in general. And you can see how his comfort level with some of those guys has started to emerge, and I think really hit their stride offensively without a question. I mean, they're clicking on all cylinders. They really don't look any different. They found kind of their deep threats. They found their underneath guys. The running backs are the same. The O-line has had some issues in terms of some injuries, but really kind of the same they were last year. They had to play a lot of young guys last year on the offensive front. And so just a very dynamic, diverse offense. They can get into a series where they say, hey, we're going to run the ball, get into heavy personnel and do that for a while and lull you to sleep, and then they'll take their shots down the field, and then they'll get into empty sets and just let Gage kind of operate. So huge challenge there. Defensively, I know their numbers don't show it. You kind of look, I watched them play and I'm like, these guys play really hard and they get after it. But they've given up some yards, and that's probably due in large part to the fact that they kind of have to play a lot of snaps there. That's when you make a decision to be as wide open on offense as Eastern is, one of the byproducts of that is that your defense is probably going to have to play a lot of downs. And they roll some guys up front. I think their D-line is better. Each year I've watched them on film, I felt like their defensive line has gotten better. I think they've recruited well there. I think they're coaching them well. Linebacker core, the kind of the heart and soul of that. You can really look at Havili, who they've moved from inside to kind of the buck end. They run a defense very similar to us. I mean, they base out of the 3-4, they get into 4 down and nickel. They fire zone, they'll play a little bit more man coverage. In particular, last week against UC Davis, they played a little bit more man coverage. But I almost think it's probably what we call match or stretch coverage. It's a lot of post safety. It's 4 under 3 deep, but vertical routes become essentially man. The big kid in the middle, the linebacker, the Calhoun kid, I think he's improved his athleticism, and he's a big physical guy in the middle. Cup's little brother is an active physical player. They play hard. I mean, they kind of have an edge. You can tell they talk a lot of smack, and you can tell they got a lot of confidence on that side of the ball. And I think their corners are better. They can play press man, which they haven't done a lot in the past. So they're willing to do that a little bit more. And then they've got a guy at safety that's the Fettig kid that's makes a ton of plays for them every week. And so I think they're a complete football team. They're number 10 in the country. Might be a little better than that. I know they had a rocky start to the year playing Texas Tech, and they really kind of got out of the gate and played pretty tough, and then some turnovers got them out of their rhythm a little bit on offense. Then they played North Dakota State, and hey, that's a great outfit. They kind of ran the ball on, got away from them. But you could still maybe see that they were trying to find their identity, trying to find their footing a little bit with Aaron being a first-year head coach and a new coordinator, and some cast of characters around Gage that were a little bit different. But really from the Furman game on, they've been lighting it up. And so it will be interesting. That's all I have.
So what has to be different this year than last year?
Well, I think we're both different teams. What has to be different is, and not unlike what's happened in the last two games, we've got to do a better job of capitalizing on red zone opportunities. I watched our game from last year. It was 17-14. We had the lead. We're going down. We're on a pretty good drive. We're going down, and we get a first down, and we get a late hit. Right, so it was a dead ball late hit penalty that took us back into our territory. We were in not quite red zone, but red zone fringe, and we didn't get the first down. We punted. Okay, they went down and scored. So now it's 24-17. Okay, and we are driving the ball straight down the field, and we're going to score. Nick rips off 2 big runs. Chris gets in the open field. And then their number 3, that defensive end, picked Chris up like he was a little baby boy and tore the ball out of his hands. And I think from that moment on, it was like, oh God. So we came out and scored on them on our first 2 drives. They scored. It was kind of looked like it was going to be a track meet a little bit. And then their maturity, I think, kind of took over. And you saw us making some mistakes. We turned the ball over a number of times as the game wore on. I thought we did a reasonably good job of making them earn it. We tried not to give up a lot of home run balls. And I think we're a better team, certainly, than we were a year ago. at this time. I think we kind of know who we're supposed to be and how to play things a little bit. But I don't think they're that much different. I really don't. I think they're just a really gifted, talented outfit. They play with a lot of swagger and a lot of confidence, and we're trying to become that. And this is a part of the process, and you have to have, heck, this is what we played. This is week 6, and we played 5 ranked opponents. So we kind of played some pretty good teams. And this is kind of what we do every week. We go out and we play good teams, and it doesn't matter if it's now or down the stretch in the Big Sky. You can see, there's a lot of parity in this league, and what's got to be different is we've got to score touchdowns instead of set up field goals, and we've got to not allow number 8 to run around and throw the ball down the field.
Has the offensive scheme changed a little bit now that Bo Baldwin and Troy Taylor are gone? Or
Not really.
Not really?
No, it's all the same stuff. I think they hire you and they say, here's our playbook. And so, they brought in a Bodie Reeder, I believe, is their coordinator, which ironically enough, he played at Eastern Illinois. He started out at Wyoming and then transferred to Eastern Illinois. I can remember actually recruiting him all those years ago a little bit out of Champaign, where he's from. And so, anyway, he's a guy that had G8 at Oklahoma State, and I'm sure probably brought maybe a little bit more RPO flavor to things. You can see some of that. And Gage actually operates that really well. But in terms of their core offense, obviously Aaron was on that side of the ball for a long time and has strong feelings about it, and they kind of do what they do.
To lose 3 guys on offense and 4 guys overall to the NFL and still continue to roll like they have, how impressive is that?
Yeah, it's, it tells you how good Gage is, I think, is what it tells you.
Right.
I mean, if you want to be honest about it, because now Cooper Kupp was a unicorn, for crying out loud. That guy was unbelievable. But those other 2 guys were tremendous players as well. And I think what it says is, hey, we've got a system where we're going to be able to go recruit guys that know this is what we're going to do. You're going to have an opportunity to touch the ball. I think they have 7 guys that have 10 catches or more on their roster right now. So they do a great job of spreading the ball around, and maybe it's not one of those 1, 2, 3 guys that are getting all the targets. Actually, in some ways, makes it a little bit more challenging to defend because the way they spread the ball around. Now you got to worry. It's like, okay, we got to worry about him, and him. Now you got to go, okay, pick your poison a little bit. And so, again, I think it's a tribute to what they've done in recruiting and building that program, but also a testament to what a truly great player Gage is.
Do you like the matchup, your offensive front versus their defensive front?
I think it'll be a very good matchup. I think they roll in a lot of guys, and they've got some big dudes. I'm looking at this right here, and they got this Keith Moore, who's a kid that we actually talked to about. He's had I remember recruiting him at Washington. He's down the depth chart because he's a redshirt freshman, but he's all of 6'4", 290. And so they have some big, good-looking dudes inside. They play really. That's the thing. When you turn a team on and you go, look at how they play. They play hard. That it matters to them. And these guys play hard every snap, and every ball is contested. Like the UC Davis game. If you watch that game, Davis made some great plays. They made some great. There was no blown coverages, no, number 3 going up and making one-handed catches and stuff like that. It was just you have to beat them, and it's hard to do because here's the thing: at the end of the games, you can see it a little bit against us in Portland State. When you drop back and throw the ball that much, especially when you're on the road in this league, we only have 60. How many D-line are we going to travel? And so now they're going to just say, okay, you got to get after this guy for, maybe 60 snaps of pass, and then sprint to the ball. Well, you can see it by the 4th quarter. Even if they don't have a lead, they're extremely. It's almost like they just kind of are an idle, and then when they get behind the 4th quarter, they just gear down and put their foot on the gas pedal and run right by you. They had a 1-play drive after Davis took the lead to take it back. You're like, what do you got to do here? And Davis was meticulous and methodic, moving the ball down the field, and it's like, all right, well, boom, touchdown. We haven't even talked about this number 10. You talk about a unicorn. I don't know where they got this dude, but he's 6'5", 250 and looks like a wide receiver. So when they put him in line tight end, they can run vertical routes. And we don't have anybody that's going to match up to that guy, period. Don't let him off the line or hope you hit the quarterback and he throws the ball out of bounds or something. But he's special in terms of what he can do. And so, good football team. Good football team.
Issues last week in the second half.
Yeah.
I think right now you guys are ranking 3rd in the league in fewest penalty yards. Are you happy with kind of the way you guys have.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the penalties that you can't abide by two types of penalties. Pre-snap, which is the ones that we had in the first half, right? They don't even get you an opportunity to get into the play. And dead ball, because those show lack of discipline. So if you're getting penalized for unsportsmanlike conducts or late hits and things like that, then that's a huge issue to me. And Kevin had one, really uncharacteristic on our first touchdown. And that could have been a huge play in the game because they're forcing us 15 yards back. They had the wind at their back. They got a kick returner that took one back the week before against Montana to tighten that game up, make it a one-possession game in the fourth quarter. And so, and then, hey, great job by Gage, putting the ball out of the back of the end zone with a little bit of wind at his back. But so those are the ones you can't handle. The post-snap penalties, or the post-play penalties, the dead ball penalties, and the pre-snap. Our pre-snap stuff was maddening. You're going to have holds. You're going to have pass interference. I mean, those things, that's part of the game. You don't want them to be one-sided. You hope that everything levels out a little bit by the end of the game. But offsides, illegal formation, procedure penalties, those are the ones that drive you crazy. And those are the ones, we basically killed an entire drive. We would move the ball 7-yard gain, 10-yard penalty. 7-yard gain, 5-yard penalty. 7-yard gain, 5-yard penalty. It's just, maybe that's why the game went so fast. But yeah, that was, they're always frustrating, but that helps you understand a little bit. My mindset is, you can live with some of those that happen from whistle to whistle, but it's the ones that happen before the ball's snapped and the ones that happen after the whistle's blown that really frustrate you.
What's been the key for it seems like the big runs breaking out, the blocking on the perimeter? I guess how would you kind of assess
Well, we talked about it as a team is you don't rush for 403 yards against somebody without your wide receivers. And in our case, our tight ends just really taking ownership over that part of the game and really taking pride in it. And so I just tip my hat to the job that Matt and Byron and Brian Armstrong have done with the wide receivers and tight ends, and they're buying into that part of their role on this team. And Mitch Herbert didn't come here to be an offensive tackle, but sometimes you got to block, and so he's always been great about that. Jabari, Kevin Cassis, Justin Page, and you can go down the list. Those guys are awesome in those roles, and really I think Curtis Amos probably played his best game since I've been here. He's really embraced that physical role, kind of our H-back, even a fullback at times. And the growth that Wilson has brought, and then just the mindset change that Connor Sullivan has. He was a wide receiver when we got here in a tight end's body. Now he's a tight end that, if we want to throw him the ball now and then, that's fine, but he's totally bought into sticking his face on somebody and playing physical brand of football, and I think that's really helped our team.
Have you seen Herbert improve in that aspect as a blocker on the perimeter?
Yeah, he's always been such a detailed guy and such a guy that buys into his role, but I think Mitch he's very good at it. He's very good at it. He understands leverage. He's long, figures angles out, knows where the ball's going, understands the scheme as a whole, so he knows, hey, this is where the ball's going to go. And a lot of times he even understands, like Chris's style, for example. The ball breaks, he knows where Chris is going to go. And so he can maybe hedge his bets a little bit on some of that. And I think that just speaks to his intelligence and preparation.
You feel like that's a product of his intelligence too, being able to be ready to go all the time? Sometimes he might have 9 catches for 120 yards, and then sometimes no targets at all. So what do you think of that aspect?
Yeah, well, I just think it's what we talked about is our guys buying into their roles on this team, and it's at the end of the day, it's, hey, did we win or did we lose? And I know Mitch wants to win, and I love that about him. I don't think he was ever happier than not catch. I think he caught one ball against Montana, last November, and he couldn't wipe that smile off his face for a year. He's just the ultimate team player.
Talk about roles, can't help but notice that Troy is listed on both offense and defense on the depth chart
Is he really?
this week. Yeah. Is there a chance that we could see him play both sides?
Yeah.
In this game? Really?
Yeah, there's probably a good chance. Really, again, if that game goes differently a little bit, Eddie doesn't get nicked up and we get a couple more scores, he probably would have played the whole fourth quarter at Sam linebacker, and that was kind of what we were hoping we would be able to do, was to put him in a situation, hey, Portland State battled back and kept the game tight and felt like we had to do what we had to do. Eddie gets nicked up, we end up handing him the ball, and he just runs out of his shoes and trucks people. So, we only get him for so long, right?
Yeah, right.
May as well use him.
How impressive is that, though, that he has to know both ends?
Really impressive. Honestly, I would never in my life think, okay, we've got this true freshman, we're going to play him at running back, and then we're going to get him ready to go in this package over here. You'd be like, no, just put him there, either play man-to-man, you got that cat, or here's the ball, don't fumble. That's what you do with freshmen, right? But not him. Gets it, prepares, comes in, does extra. I think he's honest with himself too. Like, he's not one of those guys like, I can do it all. Like, he's not comfortable. You can kind of tell, and you can know when to back off. And I think that helps us as coaches too. But yeah, really impressive young man.
When you look at the film, did you continue to see the progress of the defensive line, and why? Why were they able to kind of take a next step against Portland State?
Well, that is the 10,000-hour rule, playing D-line. I mean, if you go watch D-line practice, they do the same thing over and over, and there's not a lot of, let's change things up and keep it fresh. I mean, that's not what you do. You go hit the shiverboard, you hit the 5-man, and you work on twist turn, and you know, I mean, the spice of life is getting to do some pass rush, you know, that's where you have, all right, you gotta go do, you know, Muay Thai pads or whatever. And so it takes a certain mindset, and it's a grind, and so much of it is tied into their feet. And that 10,000-hour rule shows up because, you know, you'll do it once, and you'll go, oh yeah, I felt that's what it's supposed to feel like. But that doesn't mean you're gonna replicate it again. I mean, that's 5,000 of the 10,000 hours, you know, that gets you halfway home when you know how to do it correctly. Now, can you do it correctly on a consistent basis? Because it's, you know, it's pre-snap success, knowing what the backfield set is, the game situation, how they're going to slide, putting yourself in position. And guys like Tucker and Zach Wright in particular, and Tyrone they're students of the game. They understand that aspect. Okay, now the post-snap success is your pad level, hand placement, footwork. There's just, and the difference between, like, I always think it's funny because I used to talk to our DB coach at Washington about this, is like, we don't even play the same game. We don't even play the same game. You know, you guys you're running backwards, you know, and your post safety is 20 yards from the ball on the snap, and our nose is 6 inches from the ball, and there's no compare. I mean, it's like, literally, they're playing a different game than we're playing, but we're on the same team. And so it's hard for you to quantify that. But if you make a mistake with your footwork on the D-line, you're going to end up on your back. You make a mistake at post safety with your footwork, you still have time and distance to recover. And so I think it's just the margin for error is so small at the line of scrimmage, and I think Byron's just done a great job of kind of sticking to the plan and forcing those guys to become those experts, masters, and students of the game.
Do they have to adjust the way they play, given Gage Gubrud's mobility and things
Oh,
like that?
God, yeah, I think everybody does. He's probably best when he's scrambling, right? And it's not like he's looking to run the ball. He will run the ball, but you can tell they spend a lot of time on scramble drill. As soon as he breaks out of the pocket, everybody's going to their hot spots and looking for the ball, and you better plaster and leverage him. And yeah, I'm not going to get much sleep this week. So.
Why have the option plays just been so successful with?
It's not unlike what you see Eastern do in the pass game, right? It's okay. There's all this space out there, and I've got a pretty good look at how people are aligning. And if I make the right decision, it's going to be really hard for them to defend it, right? So, you know, for example, if I'm standing here like this and you're standing right there, and the quarterback sees that you're there and throws the ball here, well, what can I do about it? You know, if he throws the ball appropriately and the receiver catches it, that's a good read, right? So take what's available, take the good read. Well, option football is very similar to spread passing game in that regard, in that we're spacing them out, we're just doing it a little bit differently. It starts more vertical than horizontal, and then we're making a decision based off how they play us. So we're reacting to what they're doing. So it's hard, if we are right, it's hard for the defense to be right, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Unless you've got the guy that was the best at it for us isn't even playing right now. Jacob Hadley, a 6'6" guy who's pretty athletic on the edge, and he can say, okay, there's that. Oh, you're not gonna. Okay, I'm going to do this because he was so long and athletic. And so you kind of have to. We call those erasers, guys that can erase mistakes because of their physical abilities or their size or whatever. And so I think that to answer your question, I mean, it's about decision making and taking advantage of what the defense isn't going to defend.
Did you visit?
I do not. Yeah, I think actually, in fact, Jake's going to get surgery.
Really?
He just that foot never came back, and we had him in a boot for his second or third day of fall camp, and so it's unfortunate for him, but he's going to have surgery and probably lose him for the year.
Do you expect Josh Hill to be back this week?
I do. Yeah, and I think the thing with Josh is we got to be smart. It's not like we can go, okay, Josh is back, great, let's play him for 90 snaps. I think we've got to be smart with him and manage him a little bit, get him in the game. I think 30 to 40 snaps is probably about what he can handle this week.
Seemed like Grant was moving between Mike and Buck a lot on Saturday. Do you like the versatility he gives you?
Yeah, well, I mean, if there's one hallmark of our defense, that's what I want it to be. I mean, I think position versatility is the key to modern football without question. If you got guys that can play multiple positions and affect a quarterback then you are better. And especially at this level, when you have 63 instead of 85, well, okay, if I can get this guy who can do this and this, that's pretty good for us. And so I think Mac has that ability. I think Braden Conkle has that ability. I think, young guys that we have in the program have that ability. I think Grant is certainly one of those that has the ability to play multiple positions. Part of it is he's played them, which is good, but he's a high motor guy, and I think he can affect the quarterback. He's a good blitzer, so there's good value for us there.
Nick was saying had a good production day on Saturday, but how much does he bring you guys mentally? He seemed to be playing with a lot of edge even pre-game, during the game, like really.
Yeah, that's one of the things I talked about to him. I was like, just stay in the performance anxiety curve. I knew he was going to be hyped, and obviously, his first opportunity to play, and I thought he managed it well. Nick brings a physical presence to our run game, and I think he'd be the first one to admit and say, gosh, probably missed a few reads here or there, need a little bit more patience on some of our gap scheme things, but you can see when he hits it downhill, he's gonna give you, he's gonna push the pile, and I think that's a nice compliment for us.
The Brott brothers, each of them are having success this year. You just talk about kind of how they interact with each other, how they support each other, just that dynamic between them.
Is this the obligatory Bozeman Chronicle question?
Maybe.
Or Billy, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Billy.
Come on.
I think so. It's safe to assume.
Okay. Well, they're different guys. Like Wilson is a little bit more easygoing. Great teammate. Everybody loves Wilson. Mitch, there's angry Mitch and there's happy Mitch, and you just got to kind of know. And so they're funny. They're kind of the yin and yang, and I laugh when I see them lined up next to each other on the line of scrimmage, and wonder if I can just see Mitch, like if Wilson doesn't do what Mitch thinks he ought to do, Mitch just looking at Wilson and getting in an argument. I was having to call a timeout because we can't get the playoff or something, but we haven't had that happen yet. Tough kids though. Mitch in particular. He is a grinder and just a tough guy. Wilson, like I said, a guy who came here was a quarterback, walked on, has just kind of had to really work hard to find his role, but has persisted through it. And probably one of the more popular guys on the team. The kids love him. Really happy for his success. And I think that speaks to his buy-in into what his role is.
What sort of mentality do you hope your corners have coming into this game?
Next play. Next play. Got to go. So.
Eddie Vander, do you expect to be able to use him?
I was thinking maybe no on Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, but and then when I talked to Rob, and he was like, probably a good chance. Soft tissue deal, see how he responds.
All right, thanks.